Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. This is such a wonderful thing. I am so happy to be up here in Michigan. I've never been this far north. I did been in New York, but not this far. I'm from Kentucky, as you can tell from the accent, from Lexington area, bluegrass. And in the bluegrass, we're known for our thoroughbreds and our bourbon, though we enjoy beer a lot. I know the beer's here, the brewery's here. And it was excellent. Last night, the beer was excellent. So what I'm going to talk to you today, before I begin to start, is correct. On Halloween, I will be at Toyota for 24 years. I'm Michelle Redmon White, so it's a long name there. There's a couple of us at Toyota, so I have to include my maiden name there, Michelle Redmon White. I've been in QC, quality control, for 17 years at Toyota, hired in as a welder, actually body repair, and then went on to MIG welding and resistance welding for about 7 years. So before we begin, I want to kind of tell you what I'm going to go over. There are presenters. You know, you go to a conference, there's presenters that are entertainers, and you laugh and you have a great time, and they inspire you, and your endorphins get going, and you start being creative, and that's wonderful, and that is not me. I am not that. Then there are others that will give you very specific criteria. Maybe they got some handouts for you to follow. You need to do this every week with leadership. Make sure you do that every month, right? And those things are very, very good. And I actually follow many of those things to make sure what you do. I am not that either. So you're not going to get that. But I am going to give you something to take away. Because at a conference, it's very nice to go and feel good and hoorah and all this stuff, but you got to have something you take away and it's applicable. What I'm going to give you is the piece in between. I'm going to give you from the time that you're supposed to do all the data and the tracking and make sure I have my sit-downs with my people and make sure that, you know, I follow up with them. I'm going to give you the piece that's not talked about very often. You're going to get good results if you do those steps that they have millions of books about, right? You're going to get good results, but if you don't do this piece, you'll never reach your maximum. And this piece is not as difficult as you may think it is. So I'm going to tell you some things today you're probably going to disagree with, maybe, and some of you agree with, but I promise you if you try, you're going to see the results will come to you, all right? So when we talk about leadership, company, what's the company benefit? Because the love of the company, whatever company you work for, whatever company that you own or manage, is that you get better leaders, develop better members. I put members there. Toyota we call team members. Just kind of like they were talking about Walt Disney, they have cast members. We're team members. Everybody's a team member, from the President Will James all the way down. So for whatever you are, your employees or whatever you are, you're going to get better members if you have better leadership. If you don't develop your leaders, I promise you, you're not getting your maximum output. It's not happening. Because someone's not getting challenged enough, someone's getting overlooked, so you're not being the best that you can be. On a personal note, successful leadership, that's every one of us have a personal fulfillment for that. For me, it's when that person comes up and it clicks. I said something, I challenged them, and they come back and tell me, sometimes years, they come back. And they say, you know, Michelle, you were such a pain in the neck, but you know what, I did what you told me to do, and it worked. Or someone comes up just last week, come up and say, you know what, Michelle, I want to thank you. Because what you talk about every morning is important and it makes me feel good. So those things, because long before we are production managers, quality managers, we're people. And how you react to your people that you work with, that's what matters at the end of the day. And that's where you're going to get your biggest benefit. Whether you like it or not, whether you like people or not, that's where you're going to get your biggest benefit is connecting with them. So let's see if I get the, okay, so a lot of times people give you all kinds of quotes. They quote this and they give you facts about that, data about that, and it's all really, really nice and neat to hear. I don't remember most of it, but it seems really, really good at the time they say it at a conference. So I'm not going to give you a lot of quotes, but this one, many, many years ago I read it. This is a Chinese general, and there's still debates about his book about how to win wars. So Sun Tzu, and I probably just mutilated his name because of my accent. Leadership is a matter of intelligence, trustworthiness, humaneness, courage, and discipline. What's the importance of those? Reliance on intelligence alone will result in rebelliousness. You're like, what? This is true. All you got to do is think back. You get a room of highly intelligent people, right? But if all you're going to focus in on are people talking about how smart they are and the competition of who's the smartest and whatever it is that they do, you're going to get that rebelliousness. Next, exercise of humaneness alone results in weakness. There is a phenomenon going on, and I do not know if it's going on in your all's industry, but in our industry there's a phenomenon coming on, and that's because we have to learn our newest generation that's coming up, right? People are starting to do this. And if you do this alone, you will have this failure, weakness, okay? You will have weakness. If everything's okay, everything's wonderful, you're not going to get to your root cause of your problems. You're not going to develop. You have to hear that news that is true, that's real. It might not be comfortable, might be not what you want to hear, but in quality control, that's what we do. I don't know any other way to be. It's in my DNA. My job is to identify my weaknesses and everybody else's weaknesses, right? And tell them about it and control it. So if you don't do that, you will have a weakness. Fixation on trust results in folly. So if all you do is focus in on building trust and everything's about trust, like sometimes they want you to do, you're not going to get anywhere. It's useless to do that. Trust is a very, very important component of leadership and team building. But if that's going to be your main focus, or that's where you're going to go all the time, you're not going to move forward. Dependence on the strength of courage results in violence. There are these leaders. Do it because I said so. That's a boss, right? Or the one that gets the loudest and can take the introvert, the extrovert, and override the introvert, and you never hear anything. And whoever's can stand up at the meeting and override everybody else because they're brushes and everything, well, that's all you're going to get. You're going to miss out on so much. So you don't want to do that. Excessive discipline and sternness and command results in cruelty. We're humans. And when all you're doing is focusing on the bottom line, which is very, very important, you will wind up looking at cruelty, because when it's strict and strict and strict, and although we're quality and standards, I'm not going to deviate from my standards, but when it comes to leadership, you have to listen. You have to listen, right? It's important to ask the right questions, but it's important to listen. So if you're always strict on that line, you wind up being cruel, and you wind up missing on some opportunities, right? Because people will follow leaders more than they will follow a company nowadays. Y'all notice that too? New phenomenon? Millennials are real big about it. They're going to follow people more that understand them than they are about this company is this word, right? Ooh, this company, I'm going to go to this company and stay with them for 50 years. They're going to go with people. So if you want to develop in leadership and you want to maximize, then you want to make sure that you stay away from that straight, hard, narrow, right? So when you get all this together, because KPIs are key performance indicators for companies, right? You have your safety. This is Toyota. Safety, quality, productivity, cost, and human resources. Can you drop any of them? No. Should one of them be bigger than the other? No. Every one of them are important. Maximum important. They're labeled in the list. Safety first, quality, right? But every one of them. Same things with these virtues. When you have all of these into, when you have all of them into the virtues where they go together appropriately and balanced, then that's when you're going to maximize as a leader. This is Michelle. I had to clean this up because I didn't think Jim would want me to be harsh language here. So I cleaned it up a bit. A leader gives you fill it in as your own, about those they lead, even when those they lead, I had to clean this up too, would not save them from dying. Put Yosemite Sam there because he is clearly not a leader, right? Shoot him. And what I mean by that is you're going to have someone that you don't particularly like. Maybe you don't like the way they look. Maybe they remind you of an ex-wife. Maybe they remind you of a boyfriend that did you really wrong, or a boss that fired you for no reason. Maybe they're the one that always, when you're having a meeting, they always got that irritating question that has a total relevance of what you're talking about. Maybe they're the ones that are always calling and saying, hey, I got this problem, I got this problem. So it's like, oh my gosh, here they come again. You have to still care about them. and you should treat them the same way that you treat everybody else. Now, I'm not saying, there's some very good, excellent writers that have said that you have to identify the ones that aren't performing at the level and they're like cancer and you cut them out. I'm a believer in that. But you got to give them every opportunity. Because at Toyota, if the student hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught. And as a leader, you have to take that own personal responsibility and accountability that if somebody that you lead did not succeed at whatever it is, I don't care if it's pushing that across there. If they can't do that right, and you're the leader, it's your fault. How can you get them to do that? My wire's coming down. So you got to take that ownership no matter who they are. No matter who they are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they don't like you. It doesn't matter if they come up and tell you, I don't like you. I've had that done. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to treat them right. If there's an opportunity for them to develop, I'm still going to give them the opportunity to develop. Now I'm going to hold you to your standards and policies and procedures. So if you don't perform your job, I'm going to document it. I'm going to give you coaching. I'm going to do what I can to make you successful. But in the end, as a leader, you have to make those hard decisions. Because you have to understand that when it comes the time that you've done everything you can for an employee, you've taken them through all the steps to develop them, and when they're not getting any better, it's no good for you to hang on to the person. So you got to go through the proper channels to see, is that person going to make that decision to leave the company? Or the company says, maybe, this isn't the place for you. And if you can't do that, then you won't be an effective leader, because you're always going to have a person there that's going to spread like cancer, that negativity, right? And it will stop you from getting that optimum output. So, as I say, that you have to commit to everyone to be the same and give them all the same, even if you don't care for them. It doesn't mean that you keep hard on somebody that's not performing the way they're supposed to. Next, conflict. What do y'all think about conflict? You think it's a negative? Everybody say conflict, negative. It is not a negative. It is an opportunity. So when you see conflict, you run to it. You don't run away, right? And I don't mean conflict, there's conflict at different levels, right? So it might be just a disagreement going on. You say, well, that's going to go away. I don't need to get into that. That's small stuff. Trust me, it's not small stuff. What starts on the floor or in your lab or in the cubicle land where you're at, and there's just some that's not going to go away. What that's going to do is going to stifle productivity and creativity. So you have to go to it, and you have to resolve it in the right way. And then guess what? Everybody's like, phew, I'm glad that's done, right? So you don't run away from conflict. Conflict, use it as an opportunity, because when you take that conflict and you use it as an opportunity, then others see you addressing that conflict, right? And they know, wow, you know what? Jim knows what he's doing. I like Jim. He addresses people the way he's supposed to. So he doesn't let the workforce just go and everybody's angry all the time. Everybody gets in a bad mood. Your morale is critical for the performance of your teams. I got about 149 team members. My morale is critical to their performance. So conflict is a piece of their morale. Conflict. If you do not ever have it, then ask why. It's kind of like when you ask a question, you say, hey, y'all have any concerns? And the room is quiet. You are in deep trouble. Yeah. It's better to have someone that's talkative and telling you their problems. That is way better than when it comes to being quiet, because that means they've given up. They think you don't care. They think the company don't care. They think you don't care. They're not going to talk about anything. Doesn't matter anyway. You're going to do what they want to do, right? That's what they're going to do. So it's important for you to hear what your problems are and thank them for it. And then you work through the resolution. They may get the answer they want. They may not get the answer. When I first hired in Toyota, I had a wonderful guy that hired me in. He was telling me, he said, you keep knocking on doors until you get the answer you can understand and accept. It might not be the answer that you want, but you understand and you accept it. So it's the same flow here. If you're not getting those questions, then you need to start digging and finding out why you're not getting those questions. Whatever methods, there's all different kinds of methods out there nowadays so that you can find out what your personnel, those that you're leading, from a simple anonymous, where they write on a piece of paper, right, and they just drop it in a box. That's the most simplistic way. But if you do that, you better be ready to address what they tell you, because that's even worse. That's even worse. So if I've told you and you've done nothing about it, now you've gone into a deeper hole as leadership. So when you do that, whatever format you choose, make sure that you do address, at least discuss or open up and say what you've done about it. You may not be able to resolve it. You know, you can't fix all problems, but you can come to a resolution of the problem. Bottom line, conflict is not a negative. How you manage through it results in positive or negative. I had to throw in a little bit of Kentucky here. So very sorry. That's about a 2,000-pound animal and running at a high rate of speed, and that jockey could weigh about 108, 120 pounds. And so this message is that if you want to be in leadership, or if you are in leadership, it is not for the weak. It is not. If you don't want to see people just saying, well, I'm an expert, I'm a wonderful engineer at whatever your field is, right? Mechanical engineer, I'm awesome. And that's fantastic. But that doesn't mean that you can be a leader, right? You can be a leader, but maybe not an expert in any particular field. But you can be a fantastic leader. So know that there is a difference. Who's the customer? So, my husband is Department of Defense, and they're Six Sigma, right? And I'm the Toyota Production System, Lean. So who is a customer? I want to pick who's a customer? No, I'm going to pick on you. Everybody. You are awesome. Most people will say the end user, right? The final user. Who's ever going to receive your product? Who's ever going to get your pills, pharmaceuticals? Who's ever going to drink the beer that you make? That's my customers. Others that have done some more studying, it's going to say the next process. It's like the next person down. That's the customer right there. No, it is everybody. Now, who's everybody? Accounts payable. Definitely accounts payable. Right now, you're my customer. As a leader, you should be thinking everybody is your customer, right? It is my responsibility right now, I took the ownership to stand up to convey a message to you all. It is my responsibility to make sure that I get that message to you all and what you need. When you're having a conversation, let's say it's admin, right? And you want them to do a graph for you. Got the data here, develop this for me, a program for me, whatever. That's your customer. Don't get mad if you don't get the product back. That's right. You need to take that ownership responsibility. Did I convey the message correctly to the person that I gave the assignment to? What did I do right and what did I do wrong? That's how you should be thinking about everything. So in your businesses that you're in, when you're having communication with just one person even, that's your customer. You should be thinking all the time, am I giving this person what they need? Do they understand clear instructions, right? And it's not for you to say, well, I gave you clear instructions. That's not, for example, if someone comes in, you have a store, and you're behind the counter, and they have a complaint, they have your product. It didn't work, right? Are you going to hide under the counter? Are you going to run to the back room? No, you're going to address what it is in a very nice and positive way. No different. Somebody calls in telephone. They got a complaint. Your services weren't good. You're not going to answer the phone and just let it go to voicemail and then not ever address it? No. You're going to answer it and you're going to resolve it. It is the same. They are your customers. It is the same. If I'm giving instructions to my group leaders, to my team leaders, to my team members, I am assuring that they understand what I'm conveying. How do they need to learn? We are human beings. We learn all different ways. So ask those questions. They say leadership is asking the right question, right? So ask the right questions to verify that they understand. Did I convey it right? You will gain hugely there. Respect is the most powerful action of leadership. It touches all parts. So these pieces that I've been talking about when it comes to respect, which I'm getting ready to talk about, when it comes to knowing your customer, these applications are the in-between, right? They're the in-between your checklist of your meetings, of making sure about what you're doing, from the end result. These are the mindset. If you don't have what pushes Toyota so far advanced, and we're kind of a family, so everything's in the family, is because we develop a culture. And in that culture is a mindset. And everyone has to have that mindset. And as a leader, the leaders, we develop the mindset. So, for example, I'm going to go out on the floor. Team members have to wear particular PPE, safety equipment, personal protective equipment. Am I going to go out there like this because my position? I don't need to go out there with, I'm not doing the work. No. I have respect, and I'm their leader. So I'm going to go out and have the same gear on that they have. Here's something that a lot of leaders, when I coach my group leaders and I'm training them, they have the freedom to go to lunch at a different hour. They have some freedoms that the workers don't have on the line. So you should never go to lunch early. Because when you're going to lunch early, the team members, your employees see you. Even in cubicle land. If you get up and you leave and everybody else is still there working, but you're leaving, Joe goes there, he goes to lunch early 10 minutes every day. You see what you're doing? It's a disrespect to them that are doing that job. If you have a meeting you have to go to, that's understandable. But what I teach group leaders, you can go long. So the same as you can go early, you can go long. So if you wait and let those go before you as a leader, and then you go, that's showing respect to your people, right? So that's the thinking that you have to get into, is showing them how you're going to show them respect. That means you put them first. Remember the old saying is, I'll never ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself, right? So if you're asking someone to do a particular task a particular way, doesn't matter what it is, if you wouldn't do it that way, if you were completing that job, you shouldn't ask them to do it. You shouldn't ask them to do it because that's disrespectful. And they're going to know it. And they're going to pick up on it. And you're going to get those results because of that. Respect is so much more than what I was taught. And I say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Open the doors for people and thank you. It is so much more. Respect is, I do better if I have a visual. I'm a very hands-on person. So, respect is looking at something down to the very minute. So if I'm asking a team member, remember I used the example before where I would just slide that over, right? Let's say your station's here and you got to walk up and you got to slide that over. That's a process. That is a process, by the way. So it is disrespectful, number one, to the inspector that they have to take 2 steps over there to get to that. You need to reduce that step. Because when they do that step all day long or they do it X amount of times, they're more fatigued. They're tired. 2, disrespectful for the company. You know why? Because if you take fewer steps and fewer movements, you can gain in inspection time. So it's a 2-fold win. So that's being respectful to the team member. It's disrespectful to have someone that's not performing at their highest. As a leader, you should be looking at everyone and anyone that you lead. What are they good at? What do they need opportunities? Because it's your job to make them the very best at what they do. You know the sign of a good leader? I've been gone for 2 days now. My area should be running the same as if I was there. You know why? Because I share my knowledge and I share my skill. And I'm developing my people to be stronger and stronger. Because the stronger they are, the better. If I walk away and they fall apart, I'm not a good leader. Because I didn't share and I didn't build their skills to where they can perform on their own. And when you do that, you make that commitment to build those individuals. And it takes time. Remember the horse, the thoroughbred? It's not for a weak person leadership. Because that takes time and it takes work to look at these individuals. And I'm not saying you have to sit down. Remember the one that do this every day, do that every day? When you have the sheer volume of people and the workload that you have to have, it's not about necessarily, I'm going to sit down at a certain time every day and I'm going to evaluate. But you got to have some type of system. If you don't have it in your company, which we do, but I even do more because I should do more. My corporate's telling me this, but I have to do more. So I sit down with my people more at a frequency, you know, and I have conversations with them daily. We've had a turnover rate, as many companies do. Retirement, we are relatively young for the particular plant I'm at, and so we're starting to have turnover rates. So I'm having new inspectors come in. You got to get that institutional knowledge into an inspector that it took years for others to develop. So that means I'm having to do more. I'm having to do more to make sure that they're learning and getting what I need to give to them, right? And I have to ask them questions, and I test them to see that they're getting it. So as a leader, it's taking me more time. But my benefits way outweigh. Perfect example, I think it was in part of the bio or whatever, I had to totally, from the time that the plant started, I had to rearrange the 3 groups. They're into different groups of people, right? 30 here, 35 there, 15 here. And the reason I had to do that was because of the turnover rate and the knowledge. I had to restructure. Do not be afraid as a leader to go out and challenge. If you do not challenge those that you lead and yourself, you are way, way behind. Way, way behind. I did something that completely was off the scale. The way we inspect, we did that 5 years, totally revamped the way we inspect. I had to shake up the plant that I'm in and totally revamp the groups. Never been done before. And I had to do it because, you know, you have to do whatever it takes to make your team members that you're leading get what they need to be. How horrible is it when someone doesn't succeed at the task that you gave them? If you don't feel some type of that you let them down, then you need to recheck yourself as a leader. So when I had a team member that would get a failure or a defect, that was bad. That's bad because what did I do or not do, the reason why they had that. So I had to totally revamp. And how I did that, I had a question about that last night, was one was the structure, the makeup, right? So moving people around. That takes a lot. I have to go through human resources. I have to go through senior management. I have to go on the floor and have discussions with all the team members. The new group I was going had to sit down with every team member, and I had a one-on-one that I was selecting. And those that I wasn't selecting, and explain why, and sell the vision. So you have to do that as a leader. You're going to have to do that and step up and share that. So it touches all areas. Respect. Selecting only pieces of leadership to implement will not deliver the best results, nor sustainment. Only when the culture of the company and its employees have the correct mindset to hold as values, respect, and continuous improvement. That's where you're going to see it. So if you are only going into small pieces, like let's say you're only going into the HR section, HR would have a nightmare about this, but if you're only going into having, oh, I want to make sure that you're the best that you can be, and where are you at now, and writing it down, if you don't follow it up with some serious commitment, it's worse on you. It's worse than not doing it at all if you do that, okay? So you have to have all these pieces, and we have a word that we use is genchi gabutsu, and that's get your boots on. So you got to go to the floor. So wherever business that you're going to, if you have a lab you run, if you have a manufacturing, if it's cubicles, so many, many people in an office area, right? But if your office is over here, you got a different office, and they're all out there, and you're not going to where they work at and spending time with them, you're losing. And you can't be empty. You can't go and say, hey, you did a great job, Brian. Thank you. Brian's like, yeah, you don't even know what I'm doing. You don't even know what I'm doing. You don't even realize that the time you gave me cost me X amount of hours of rework. See? You got to go talk to them. You got to go talk to them. Not while they're doing a particular job, though. Don't interrupt that. Don't slow that down or break that thought process. But if you don't go and you talk to them and understand what's going on with your people, then you can't fix their problems. And you don't know what's going on the inside, what's coming. Remember the conflict? So if you don't get down and go and spend some time with them, just talking, asking them questions. People love, human beings, love to tell you, I love to tell you what I do. I love to tell you what I do. So people love to tell you what they do. They do. Even introverts. You got to approach them differently like me. You say, hi, Michelle. Blah, 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 I'm telling you everything I know. But even introverts love to tell you what they're doing, what they got going on. It's how you approach them. And ask them questions. That's the best way. Because then they're going to start telling you what they're doing. And then you get to hear things that maybe you don't hear otherwise, right? Unless you ask those questions and hanging out with them. So that's very, very important. Even in manufacturing, we are very fast-paced. We produce a whole lot of cars, and we are very challenging. We take that time. I take that time before shift every day, in between shift, lunches, after shift, a moment. You get a little bit of a break in the offline areas. I take those moments, all right? And leaderships have to do that. And if you're in a leadership role and millennials are really big about, no, they leave the company, just no, right? I'm a 24/7. I make sure I have my personal time. So I'm not saying not to have that life balance work. But when you are dealing with people, especially on different shifts and stuff, you should be accessible to those people. The majority of the people will not bother you. They're not. They're not going to bother you. But they need to know that you're going to be a resource for them. And you might not have the answers for them, but I'm going to find out somebody that does or that can get that answer for you. Right? You don't have to know everything. Leaders don't have to be the experts in the fields that you're leading. But you have to know where to go to get the answers and how to rally the troops. Right? Just had a project about 2 weeks ago. People from all different countries. Right? We didn't know each other. We had to come together for a week. Different companies have different words for what we did. Jishkin is about what we would say a Toyota. We all got together. We had a common goal to accomplish a task. We had to do some fast team building. Anybody here has heard about team building? You go through all the different phases. Your HR, you go through all the training classes. They're going to tell you teams go through phases. They do. That is very true. But sometimes you got to go fast. All right? So how do you go fast? That's your responsibility, the leader. I got 1 week. I got people from all over different countries, and we're here to accomplish a task. So I could get through this team building fast. To maximize it and get your best benefits, you have to be the one, to set the agenda, to be polite, to open it up to every person, round robin, make sure everybody's got that. Joke about yourself. You got to be able to admit when you have failures, right? You got to be able to laugh at yourself. So when you do that and they see that you do that, then they know you're more approachable. They start saying things, right? Because team building, you go through that where you stand off, right? You're not going to talk to each other, and I'm afraid to say what I know and what I don't know because then someone else thinks I'm stupid and blah, blah, blah. So you got to open them all up. So you got to do that fast. So when you hit approach like a team building that you need to do fast, make sure you go through that method of getting everybody to open up. And they'll go to the point that teams, well, I've done it many, many times. They'll go through it many, many times where they get a little bit out of control, right? So then you got to bring them back in as a leader, right? But you can do that in the most respectful way. You can do that in the most respectful way and bring everybody back on the target so you can accomplish your goals. We did. It was highly successful. We actually got a standard that was implemented. We created a standard that's going to go North America wide for Toyota. So in auditing and quality control. So these are just a few pieces. The main point I wanted to convey today was the in-between. This is the thank you. But before we go into questions, is that in-between. So you have those steps that you take where you document, you sit down, you talk to people, make sure that you reflect on your day as you should do, the things I did good, the things I did not do good. Those are very, very important things that you get in leadership classes. But it's the in-between, and it's the mindset and the culture that you got to practice every day. That's your difference. It's that respect that goes far beyond. Remember I tell you, reduce a step. That's not just about efficiency. That's about everything you do. So if someone's doing a report, right? so it's not anything to do with it, but they're going to develop a report for you. Make sure that they're not wasting their time. How horrible is that? That's awful. They spend 2 hours doing a report that you don't even use, right? Or you're like, no, that's not what I need. I need this. That is extremely disrespectful. And people don't always remember what you say, but they remember how you treat them. And so cultivating that mindset and that respect and understanding the customer is every single one that you approach throughout your day. And that's how you should treat them. So if Brian is my group leader, I'm picking on you, Brian. Brian, you're my group leader. I'm going to make sure that I treat you just like you're the customer that bought a Toyota. And that's how I should treat you, right? Any questions?
Any question?
None? Yes, sir.
So I had mentioned the accounts payable. It's more of a little editorial, but the accounts payable, I learned that real quick when I went to bat to get accounts payable in order for a supplier, because he was the customer when it comes to accounts payable.
That's right.
They started calling me for all kinds of things outside of quality. And what I realized is that respect that's part of the partnership with the supplier. And not everybody gets that.
No, they don't.
They're just the supplier.
That's right. It's just so-and-so. It is just so-and-so that's cleaning, that's collecting our recyclables. We recycle everything at Toyota. So, you know what? That's my customer too. And how I talk to that person, because you know what? They're doing a very important job. And if you don't think it's important, let them not pick it up. It's very, very important. So having that respect for everybody that does their job and in their row, you are correct. I have to lead manufacturing. I have to hold them accountable for the quality that they ship to us. I'm there to protect the customer, the final end user, right? So, but they are my customer. Quality control is not about just calling somebody out. So I hope that if there's some quality control people, this is a valuable lesson to learn. It is not about just calling someone out. Hey, you got these deviations. See ya. Hey, so-and-so over here, they don't have the DPHV they need. You know, it's not about calling people out. Quality control is more than that, because your customer is who you're auditing, right? So have them to understand, why did they have it? How can you help them? Share knowledge with them to strengthen them so they don't have those failures. Within a company, we have to work as a team, all right? So I'm quality control for Toyota, and I'm going to stand my ground. And I'm ruthless at it. I'm going to stand my ground for the customer, final end user. But I am just as much adamant about helping manufacturing through their issues. And what can I do to support you? What can I share with you from the QC side knowledge to make your processes stronger? What can I do for you? Because you're my customer too. It's reciprocal, just like you said. Yeah. Any other questions?
I was just going to say thank you for your remarks on respect for employees, and just thinking about helping simplify their job. It shows you respect the employee and the company and the resources that you have, and then also that you also spoke about projects that you may do that for the boss doesn't use them. I mean, nothing more frustrating than that.
Nothing.
And I just think of one that I did, and I'm not sure why the boss asked me to do it. It was reviewed, and nothing ever happened beyond that. And it would have been good to know why it wasn't used or why I even had to do it. Tell me that you asked me to do it because you're kind of benchmarking it, what I came up with against something that was already in the works, and I would have been a little happier. But thank you.
You're welcome. To your point, we all grow up. And how we grow up, whether you want to admit it or not, you have filters. Yeah. And having that respect of these filters, you have them. But the respect comes in as a leader, is you never base an opinion or give a direction based on your filters. All right? Remember I told you, like, this guy looks like, an ex-husband or something, right? We had a horrible divorce. This person come from another country. This person's a different color, different sex. This person doesn't have any education, formal education beyond high school. You may have filters. This person speaks a certain way. This person dresses this person way. Diversity comes in everything. It's a wide scope. It's a wide gambit, okay? This person has an accent, southern accent, right? That's right. You may have a filter. You're going to have it because of the way you were raised, the environment. Maybe you had a traumatic experience, horrible divorce, crime done against you. But you don't base a decision off that. And that's that respect, right? When I'm deciding who's going to get the opportunity to go to class, shame on me if I used a filter and didn't choose you because of something I've got, my problem, right? Because guess what? As a leader, I just missed out. Maybe he has an award-winning ideal, and I just missed out on it because I had a filter that way. Yeah, so you're right. And to explain why you have to do something. A lot of times people just want to know why. It's so much easier to explain why. It doesn't have to be some huge, massive thing, but just why am I doing this? And then feedback. Always feedback. Always feedback. You're right. The respect. It goes a huge way. It's a lot more deeper than what people think about the simple respect. Oh, I respect people. I'm nice to people. It's a lot more. You're right. It goes a lot deeper. Any other questions? Yes.
So I've been a leader pretty much my whole career, right? And haven't always been a great leader. So what are your thoughts and when I did start becoming a great leader, we implemented 360 feedback.
Right.
What do you think about 360 feedback process, and or does Toyota have their own type of process to develop leaders?
So yes, we do. Our corporation does have a system in place to where they do the 360 feedback. In fact, we have several different programs. And the whole reason why you have the program, the 360, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But the whole idea is because you don't know what you don't know. So as a leader, you don't know. You don't know that you need to get that 360, right? Or that you, which is an excellent book also by John C. Maxwell. Up above, down below, on the side, that completely whole round gamut, they don't know that, so that's very important. All those programs are important. If your company has them, then please utilize them. They are getting you set for a mindset. That's what that's doing, right? That's teaching you how to do it. Where you may no longer have that program if you go somewhere else, or you're going to take it to only your level, like to my team leader or my group leader. Maybe I'm going to do that 360 just with my team leaders or my team members. That's okay. That's teaching you that mindset. So I think that's very good. Don't look at a lot of your training that you're going to get from your corporate that's, oh my gosh, here we go again. Because what it's doing is it's teaching you that mindset. And how can you incorporate that to where you can use it? It's kind of like vehicles that are created and they're, sorry, lose the word right now, but they're visionary cars, right? Visionary cars. It's awesome. And it gets scaled back to get to production, right? So sometimes those things that you read, webinars, you read books on, maybe you can't incorporate, but the problem comes in a lot of times, like when people try to adopt the Toyota production system, Toyota, is if you leave a piece out, you're not going to get the same results. So same thing about your 360 or any other type of evaluation system. If you leave a piece out, you're not going to get the same results. Because people go out and they'll get the and-ons in, you know. Ooh, and-ons, don't stop the line for quality, right? You know, and our problem solving, they're going to do that, right? But if you don't get that culture, yeah, you're not going to get the biggest results. You're not. That was good. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I thank you. You talked a lot about items that seem to me like very servant leadership, people first type culture.
Mm-hmm.
The company that I work at, we are currently going through a big culture change right now. We brought in a new CEO a couple of years ago, and he's really implementing going from that command and control style to a people first servant leadership style model. So this fits very much in line with what we've been hearing for the last few years. The biggest challenge we've seen is we are a unionized environment. So our local UAW has been, these new initiatives have worked really well with the salary team members, but not trickled down to our hourly team members. And so I was wondering if your facilities are unionized or not, and if you had any type of additional insight on a unionized environment.
So no, we are not unionized. Toyota is not unionized in North America. So my expertise would kind of, all I can say is that when you do the right thing every day, and when you make a mistake, you admit it, and you continue to do the right thing, that people see that. That people see that. But I understand you have restraints, yeah, that you have to work within. But I'm not the best one. Someone that's worked in a union factory would be better to be able to answer that, not myself. Oh, it is conflict, and that's right, it is conflict. But the best way to do it is to be honest and forthright and fair. And you may get knocked down sometimes, but you got to get back up, right? And as human beings go, it is surprising how the silent majority will wind up being stronger, right, than those that are more boisterous and loud. So those that see you doing the right thing repetitively, for those that you lead, in the end, you'll see that silent majority will win, and it may take years. But yeah, keep doing the right thing.
Thank you. May I?
Yeah. Yes, sir, please do.
Because I grew up in that basic
Environment.
And some of the hardest core union people became the folks that backed what I was doing when I started working on the things that worked for them.
Yeah.
And I always got their support. We disagreed,
Bless
but
you.
you gotta hit that. You've got to hit what's important to the union folks.
To the union folks. Not, I have people that are supporters, and if I put that filter on to that and didn't want to listen to them, I'd be missing out on some great ideas. I'd be missing out on some great ideas because they got some great ideas. So I'm going to continue to listen to them, which also shows that, you know what, I'm a good leader, because it doesn't matter to me whether you're union or whether you're non-union. I'm going to respect you, and I'm going to respect your idea. So it gets even more powerful. So, yeah, it was good advice. It's true. It's very true. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to say go Big Blue.
Hey, thank you.
I'm an alumnus. I was down there when Rex Chapman was there.
Oh,
It was a
wow.
lot of fun.
Yeah, we're everywhere. We're overseas. We're everywhere.
I'd like to talk to your Yosemite Sam
Yes.
situation. Where we're at, we call that a level of engagement, and it's a scale where people are either actively engaged, they're engaged, or they're actively disengaged. Depending on what book you read, sometimes they say you cannot do anything with actively disengaged people. They're the ones that wouldn't help you if you were dying, like
That's
you're
right.
saying. You mentioned sometimes you got to get rid of them.
Gets on fire.
I wonder at Toyota if there's a protocol for when do you cut them off? When do you, I mean, everybody wants to reform and
Yeah.
do that, but when do you have to say enough is enough?
So they have, Toyota, we have very specific steps that we go through for human resources. And so from the floor, we're going to start documenting all the opportunities and the efforts that we've done to help improve someone. And we have a level that you keep stepping those levels. And each time that employee has the opportunity to understand what they've done and get the buy-in, and we ask for their buy-in, we ask for them to write it down. So there's very specific levels that we do at Toyota and the HR to get them before, because we don't want to. Because when a company loses an employee, that's a loss, right? You don't gain it back. So your objective is not to do that. But you should have steps in place at your HR level, and if you don't, open that conversation. I've opened up all kinds of conversations at Toyota that are, you know, I can't, not the expert, but I need this done for my people. So I go and find the expert that's somewhere else, right? Whether it be engineering in North America, whether it be the human resources. This is my end goal, this is what I want. How do I go about this human resource? What do I need to make sure my check measures that I need to put in place so I can get this done? This is my vision. When I restructured the plant for the quality control groups, that's what I had to do. This is my vision. This is why. I have my supporting data. This is what I want to do. Same thing with an employee. You really need to talk to your human resources, and we definitely have steps. There's a huge stamp. We're not allowed to speak about the things, but I'm going to tell you what, they are a huge company, and they have a huge heart for their people. So it's a sad day when you lose an employee. But you need to understand as leaders that they make that choice too. And it's an interesting thing because I had an employee that had that happen and have come back to me later and say it was the best thing that ever happened to him. Best thing that ever happened to him. Sometimes when a door closes, right, that's really not just a cliche. Another one opens because maybe that wasn't the right thing for them, and obviously it wasn't, but they went on to greater and better things. And they hold no animosity, right? And you'll have some of those that will hold animosity, and you just go on, right? Because there will be more that are for than against. That small percentage, that is very true. There is a percent. It won't matter what you do. You could hand them a $100 bill every day, nice and crisp, and they're going to complain that you didn't deposit it into their checking account. Because now I got to go by the bank. those people are there. You're just not going to get rid of them. They're there. They're very small. They're very small. The amount. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
One was an observation that it might only be me, but I noticed with, and I don't mean to single out people, but with millennials, there's in middle management or upper management positions, there seems to be a reluctance to face conflict, or they seem to rather want to avoid it.
Right.
So, like, we wind up having a lot of people fired and terminated because it's almost like North Korea, where I don't even know what they did wrong, and neither do they. They're just gone one day because they're not working out. Nobody says anything to them. Their boss doesn't tell them. There's areas for them to improve, but everyone's afraid to. Nobody wants to hurt their feelings. They'll just say, well, not really a good fit, not working out, maybe go somewhere else. And that's, I don't know the solution, but it's something that I think that I'm seeing, but maybe I'm not.
Oh, you're seeing it.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy.
You're seeing it. No,
And-
you're not crazy at all. And it's not the teetotal, so you don't want to ever say,
Yeah, I don't want to.
all millennials are like this, because that is definitely not true.
Right.
But there is a huge change in the workforce. So develop team leader training. I had to. So this is something to learn about leadership also. I had a senior advisor who was very hard on me. 2 years, this gentleman was very hard on me. But he is the reason why I have the thought process as where I am today. And I kept trying to get my training section and my HR, which HR supported me as much as they can, but they're corporate, right? So I was trying to get a new training because we were facing this very problem that you're talking about. We had turnover and couldn't make it happen. And basically he told me one day, just shut up. What are you going to do? I'm like, well, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this and no, what are you going to do? It's like, gosh, my brain hurt. Trying to think, what do you mean, what am I going to do? I've developed this program. I'm trying to get them to adopt it. I did the work for them. I just want them to adopt it. So I did it. We do the training ourselves. And I do conceptual training, so you're going to be on that line. So the problem with them not wanting to address, because we had the same thing. And your company, my company, talked to a general manager at Lowe's one day. They got it too, is that they don't know how to. They grew up in an environment that's different overall, different. They have huge assets that they bring to the table. Millennials do. They do. They're very, very creative. But they don't want to have that conflict. They don't want to say something because they think somebody's going to go way off and too deep, right? And why do they do that? Because of media, right? It goes, psh, psh, everybody loses their mind about everything. So they're not as tendency to do that. What has helped the most in developing mine is role play. Believe it or not, you know how we were all like role play. Oh, I don't want to get up and have these teams in this training class. They love it They love it because they get a better understanding of how they have to talk to somebody. You know, when you have someone else that's being just belligerent or off, difficult as all, and they've got to role play and they've got to learn from each other and they do it, they like that. I didn't like it when I was going to all them classes like that. They like that because then they get a better understanding of what they need to say, how their body posture needs to be, what they need to do. You know, somebody going off, you go slower and you go lower, right? And patience. They don't know those types of things. So those role play trainings have been a tremendous help.
And, I did one more. I screwed something up really bad. So maybe anyone could tell me what I did wrong because I'm still bewildered. But I made an entire production line mad at me, and I still don't know what I.
Did you ask them?
No, I was told not to talk to them. So I.
Oh, is this back to the? Yeah. Oh.
Well, so it's what it occurred with some people on a production line noticed something. They brought it up through their chain of command. Eventually, it got to me, and I started looking into it, and I found out that we have some huge major concerns, and it turned into a great big thing. So I went back to those people, and I was like, okay, here's what's happening. This is because of what you said. Here's what occurred, and thank you. And you make sure you get some donuts or something from your supervisor, or maybe I'll bring you guys a hat or something. But I really, keep up, with that. And I said it's not, and I used the word complaining. I said, it's, maybe some people view it as complaining, but you guys are the first people that actually see this in our process. So anytime you notice this, feel free to-
I have to stop over here since it's past 10:55, and next session will start in 11:05. So let's stop over here, and you can take the question and answers offline.
I will answer that out there. Yes, sir. That's a good one. I got some things to help though. So yeah.
So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for-
much. Thank you all.